what happens if you take this while not addicted to nicotine? Apparently, it's like a mild nicotine effect. Apparently, it'll have a mild benefit. But it's interesting to see. Apparently, it makes you mad and it makes you horrible. So that'll be good for streaming. But you guys know why college sucks, right? You guys know why academics and science sucks. Can we just let's just think about it for a second? Oh, that's because there's less white people and there's more Jews running things, and then there's brown people who lie about everything. That's the answer. That's why academics suck, and that's why science papers suck. Is because there's less white people running it and there's Jews running it, and as a result, there's a bunch of brown people and there's a bunch of fraud and lies. That's the obvious answer. It's true. Ever since World War II, we've been on pause. We've ground to a halt. Everything's just kind of like meh. The reason we just recently got AI is because the quote unquote godfather of AI, who's a Jewish person, basically trashed the actual working method of neural nets and large language models. And he basically came up with his own idea that was hailed as genius. And this is back in the 60s. And he trashed the actual working way. But because he was Jewish, no, basically he was hailed as a genius. And that's the reason AI kind of stalled for about 50, 60 years because of a Jew. And that's kind of the reason why we have string theory and quantum theory and all this stuff. And that's really the reality of it, is when there's less white people running things, it's more specifically German people and, that sort of thing, French people. When there's less German and French people and Russians running things and doing science, actual science and mathematics, and there's more Jews, everything kind of fails, right? Everything, we're kind of just coasting off of stuff we know that we learned and we made better, from back when white people ran things. And that's the answer. That's a very easy answer. And there's this site that I've written about before, Palladium, and it's this really, really trash, really, really trash blog by Samo Berja, who's a retard. Where's this guy? Yeah, Samo Berja. He's a guy who paid to go to the World Economic Forum and give a speech. So another thing people don't understand about the World Economic Forum is that people pay to go there. They pay to get a speaking thing. And basically, this guy's a weird freak. Basically, this guy's a weird loser freak with no real accomplishments. And basically, I've trashed their magazine, their little blog, multiple times because they're idiots and they're bad at writing. But we'll read this and we'll learn what the reason science sucks. Because it's so vague, and it's just, I'm not smart enough to understand, why does science suck? Why do colleges and why do scientists not create anything of value anymore? I can't figure it out. I'm too stupid. I only have an associate's. I dropped out from my bachelor's. I only have an associate's from a community college. I'm just too stupid. What I need Samo Berja and his retards. I mean, his geniuses who write on a blog and have never had a real job to explain to me the reason why the thing filled with Jews and brown people isn't producing the valuable insights and real science. I just can't really figure out why the thing that was, when it was run by white people, was productive, is for some reason not productive now that it's run by Jews and brown people and women. So we'll see if we can figure it out. This is called the academic culture of fraud. Now, you might not be aware of this because, once again, we're not smart. We aren't educated. I only have an associate's. You guys probably don't even have your GED. But there's something called the, I don't even know what it's called, but you can't reproduce things. All the studies are fake. They did a meta-analysis of scientific papers, and over half of them, they can't be reproduced, which means that basically they're all fake. Over half the scientific studies are fake. Now, I don't understand what that means because I'm stupid and I don't write long essays like this. But let's just say the N-word is not really applicable here, but it's a good example of, instead of explaining why black people are annoying, saying the N-word is a very quick way to explain why you're being annoyed by black people. And it's kind of similar. Being racist is kind of a very fast way to come to a reasonable understanding of how the world works. And if you refuse to do that, you end up with this. which is literally just trash. You have to write 7,000 words to not actually explain why science is not scientific anymore. So let's read it. In 2006, Sylvian Lesne and 7 co-authors published a paper on Alzheimer's disease. A specific amyloid beta protein assembly in the brain impairs memory. In Nature, the world's most prestigious scientific journal. Prestige is very valuable to these people. Now, they really didn't have a seat at the table. These sorts of people, these sorts of individuals, up until Jews and brown people took over science. But now that they did, they have the standing, so they can participate in the prestige of Nature. Anyway, this was a major part of the. This is a major paper in the development of the amyloid hypothesis, a proposed mechanism for how Alzheimer's disease afflicts its victims. About 50 million people suffer from Alzheimer's disease, more than the entire population of California, making it the world's most common cause of dementia. This population will grow as the world's average population gets older. There is no effective treatment for Alzheimer's disease, and its pathology is poorly understood. Any progress in understanding this disease represents a massive humanitarian victory. Encouraged by this paper and other promising studies, funding and talent poured into investigating the amyloid hypothesis. By 2022, such research had received over $1 billion in government funds. Wow. That's important. It's important to know that Alzheimer's is, there's more people suffering from Alzheimer's than the population of California. See, these people just suck, dude. It's like, what a retard. Like, who cares, dude? All right, whatever. That year, neuroscientist Matthew Schrag discovered doctored images in this and many of Lesne's other papers, including others purporting to provide evidence for the amyloid hypothesis. These images had been manually edited and cropped together to falsely show support for the paper's hypothesis. Notably, these frauds all made it through the formalized peer review process of Nature and 6 other academic journals undetected, before eventually being uncovered by unrelated channels. Schrag's investigation that uncovered the fraudulent papers began as a tangent from his network uncovering doctored images used in studies supporting simulacrum, an experimental drug for Alzheimer's disease. The suspicion would prove vindicated when in June 2024, Huao-Yan Wang, a paid advisor to simulacrum's developer, was indicted by a federal grand jury for fabricating data and images. Now, what could we learn? What sort of message could we take away from this if we were smart? If we were smart, we were looking at the data, and we saw a bunch of people with names very similar to Huao-Yan Wang, or Ching Chong Ching, and that we saw a very strange through line of fraudulent papers and scientific discoveries. And we looked at and did a meta-analysis of names, and we kind of started to see a pattern based on names. Could we draw any conclusions that would very quickly make us maybe figure out that let's analyze the ethnic background of which papers are real and which papers are fake. I wonder if we could figure out some sort of reasoning as to why there's a culture of fraud going on. I personally am too stupid. I only have an associate's. I only went to community college and I dropped out my bachelor's from a state school. So I really couldn't tell you. I'm not smart enough to really figure this out. But I wonder if you could do that. But I don't think they do this here, but we'll see. A paid advisor to simulacrum's developer was indicted by a federal grand jury for fabricating data and images in simulacrum studies for which he obtained $16 million in National Institute of Health grants, following a 2021 petition to the Food and Drug Administration, a method of reporting research fraud which is highly unusual if not unique. Now, what value does this sentence, there's this, to the sentence place, what value does this sentence clause, what is it? Is that what it's called? What value to the essay does this add? Personally, I don't really see the value. I don't really see the use or the real benefit of adding this, sentence fragment. Is there one? I really can't see it. It seems almost like fluff, like somebody, that's really is the benefit of prior to the internet. Somebody like Moldbug or somebody like this person is you would have an editor and they'd be like, get rid of, half of your trash. We can't print. You're not writing a 7-page article, right? It would be like 70% of this article needs to be culled. And here I've crossed through a bunch of retarded things that are asides that make there's no reason to write them. You don't actually need to include that there was a petition to the Food and Drug Administration and that was unique. But once again, I dropped out of college. Follow up to evidence of Lesnay's fraud was slow. Schrag's discovery kicked off 2 years of wrangling, eventually leading to all of Lesnay's co-authors, but not Lesnay himself, to agree to retract the 2006 Nature paper. As Science reported in 2022, the Nature paper has been cited in about 2,300 scholarly articles, more than all but 4 other Alzheimer's basic research reports published since 2006, according to the Web of Science database. Since then, annual NIH support for studies labeled amyloid, oligomer, and Alzheimer's has risen from near zero to $287 million in 2021. Lesnay and his co-author, Ash, helped spark that explosion, experts say. Once again, why? Why? There we go. So this is what we just read right here. And this is how it could be edited to be a little more succinct. In 2006, Sylvain Lesnay and his co-authors published a significant paper in Nature on Alzheimer's disease, advancing the amyloid hypothesis, a proposed mechanism for the disease's pathology. This paper contributed to the allocation of over $1 billion in research funding by 2022. However, neuroscientist Matthew Schrag later uncovered doctored images in Lesnay's and others' works, revealing extensive fraud. This discovery led to the eventual retraction of the 2006 paper, despite significant resistance. The fraud, affecting decades of research and potentially delaying effective treatment, poses a humanitarian crisis given Alzheimer's widespread impact on millions. It's like, dude, this is just conveyed all the necessary information, and it's very simple. It's instead of 5 paragraphs or 6 paragraphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5. Instead of 5 paragraphs, it's just like 4 sentences. It's interesting how the Chinese don't even have a name for their foreign spy agency, like Mossad, CIA, MI6. Oh, yeah, their names are called Chinese people. Their spy agency is just called Chinese people. Paul, are you old stock American? Kind of, not really, no. No, not really. My family on one side was related to like the upper Midwest being created and like settled, but that's not that old, you know. So I wouldn't say it's founding stock. No, it didn't come over on any sort of ship. We did come over on a ship, but not any sort of Mayflower. Anyway, back to this. Let's get back to the real. Let's go back to the essay. No consequences for fraud. All the co-authors of the Nature study who have spoken publicly deny any knowledge or involvement in the fraud, but acknowledge that the images were clearly tampered with. So far, the perpetrator has been left safely in the passive voice. Who actually manipulated the image? So, once again, this is just too conversational. You'd be like, nobody's fessing up. There's nobody's, this is like literally, this is the paragraph right here. This is the paragraph. This is cruft. This is stuff that should be deleted by an editor. It just these sites, they get a WordPress blog and they get a custom domain and they think they're an actual like publication because they can do like formatting because they use a ghost blog or WordPress. And it's like, dude, you're not actually a publication. You don't know how to write. This is bad writing. You shouldn't have, a bunch of hypothetical questions, because you could leave this. You could leave this, but these questions are bad writing. This is too conversational for a real publication. Like my writing is very conversational, so it's fine. But this is actually better. Because it's like, dude, it's just such trash. I'm cringe stock American. They have the character. No, they don't. They don't have any. There's no like income being generated from this. There's no. This isn't real. This isn't real at all, dude. This is all fake. Anyway, man, my hair's looking so good. My hair looks so good today. Anyway, whatever. Who cares? Doesn't matter. That's me. That's me. In any case, Lesnay's employer. Well, we need to see. Is this guy bald? Let's see. Dude, you can just tell this guy's stupid. Okay. Ooh, on the social. We'll check this guy out. Futurati podcast. Dude, it's like, how do you? You can just tell. And I was talking to Wall Street Retard about this. Or I said something in reply to him. If you're not gonna, this is not a smart person, dude. It's just like a low class, low caste, bad analysis, bad genetics, stupid face. Like, dude, give me a break. Anyway, that's just rude. I'm being rude. In any case, Lesnay's employer, the University of Minnesota, is not interested in these questions. Lesnay apparently remains a professor and continues to receive National Institute of Health funding. The university has been investigating his work since June of 2022. A spokesperson says the university recently told Nature it had reviewed 2 images in question and has closed this review with no findings of research misconduct pertaining to these figures. There is no ongoing effort from the university to find the culprit. Lesnay's apparent fraud is not an isolated incident. In 2023, Mark Tessier-Lavigne, then the president of Stanford University, was forced to resign after the revelation of falsified data in his earlier research at drug developer Genentech, including a now retracted paper on the amyloid hypothesis, which has been cited over 1,000 times. In a case of successful dynastic skill transfer, just meme speak, like cult speak. That's like a term, like you're in a cult. You're hanging out with the rationalists. Dynastic skill transfer. You mean teaching the next generation, like being a mentor, proper mentorship? No, I mean just dynastic skill transfer. Now, how is that different than mentorship? Well, it's not different. It's just a different word. Public reporting was spearheaded by Theo Baker, scion of an influential family of journalists, during his freshman year as a Stanford student. In 2024, Tessier-Lavigne bounced back, becoming the CEO of a newly founded drug discovery company, Zera Therapeutics, with over $1 billion committed by its venture capitalist backers. Once again, Stanford's official statements do not finger the culprit, but blame Tessier-Lavigne's management and oversight of his scientific laboratories, where multiple members of the labs over the years appear to have manipulated research data. According to the Stanford Board of Trustees official report, the report contains incredible positions like the process through which the science of the paper was developed in Dr. Tessier-Lavigne's lab, culminating in its public. Like, why is this in here, dude? They suck. These people suck, dude. My dynastic nutsack. It's like, why is all this like minutia? I don't care, dude. This is trash. We know why. It's because it's brown people and Jews, and they can't be trusted. Okay, they can't be trusted. That's the reality. Sorry, it's not white people running college, and it's not white people doing the research. You can't trust them. It's Jews and brown people. Sorry, they're gonna lie to you. The reason we had a trustworthy system is because it was white people running things, and that's the reason why it's not working now. Anyway, where are we? The panel maintains that it would not be reasonable to accept Dr. Lavigne to have identified these instances of research data manipulation prior to or at the time of the respective paper's publications, even though many of the fabrications were later identified by visual inspection of the manipulated images. Stanford's public position is that its researchers cannot reasonably be expected to know what happens in their own labs and gets published, and it should be and what gets published in their own names, because that's technically right, but it's janky. Know what happens in their own labs and what gets published in their own names. That just flows so much better, dude. Whatever. Who cares? Once again, there is no effort to find the supposed true culprits. If the trustee's report is taken at face value, then there must be several unidentified fraudsters in multiple laboratories. Once again, so what this essay can be boiled down to, well, because we're like a third of the way through. This should be a paragraph. That first opening page should be a paragraph. This should be like a 900-word essay, or a 1,000-word essay at most, 1,500 words. This is like a 3,000-word essay. It should be, it's just blowing it up, right? This should be one paragraph itself. He's just retarded. Okay, this is why books suck unless they're fiction, because writing a book, if you're good at communicating, you can communicate very, very precisely and very technically and very smushed. And so when you're writing, like I write, it has to be a bunch of little essays. So I have like an index, and it's like pages of index, because every single essay at most is like 2 or 3 pages, and this is like on a normal page, because nothing is really that complicated. Nothing really needs this amount of like trivia and factoid. If you're talking about mechanics and you're talking about specifics and how the world works, it's very, very direct and very simple. You boil it down to mechanics that are very, chunks. Paul 10, your hair treatment looks good. Yeah, I took a shower today, so it's not as greasy. Even though many of the fabrications, once again, there's no effort to find the supposed true culprits. How do I become a great writer? Have parents that care. My parents cared, so they taught me. My mom taught me how to write well. My mom gave me the old 1-2. I would write poorly, and she'd beat me with a stick. She would take a baseball bat and hit me in the face, and then I learned to write properly. Once again, there's no effort to find the supposed true culprits. If the trustee's report is taken at face value, then there must be several unidentified fraudsters in multiple laboratories, but they seem unconcerned with the obvious implication that these supposed fraudsters are continuing to make out fake data for critical medical research. The trustees maintain that the fraud arose from lab culture and management, and therefore implicitly there is no single individual who bears moral or procedural responsibility for actually falsifying the data. You could just say bears responsibility. All right, as we saw with the University of Minnesota, this attitude is typical of academic overseers. While Tessier-Levine was at least forced out rather than enjoying total impunity like Lesney, this should not be mistaken for justice. Medical fraud at this scale is mass manslaughter. If you ripped medicine, and all these people got vaxxed, by the way, all these people got vaxxed during COVID, all these geniuses who are really, really intelligent, they all got vaxxed. If you ripped medicine out of the hands of every man, woman, and child in Spain, that would be about as many people as suffer from Alzheimer's disease worldwide, whose treatments and perhaps someday a cure were all delayed for the benefit of one man's career. In a just world, the perpetrators would not simply bounce from one prestigious executive position to another. In a just world, the trials of Sylvain Lesney and Mark Tessier-Levine would be at least as widely publicized as that of Sam Bankman-Fried. Very cultural reference. If found guilty, they would be imprisoned for decades. Wow. All right, let's do some editing. Let's do some serious hard work editing here. Please do the same succinct editing for this. All the co-authors of the Nature study can deny knowledge of the fraud but acknowledge the tampered images. The identity of the perpetrator remains unclear, with circumstantial evidence pointing to Sylvain Lesney, although no hard proof exists. The University of Minnesota, Lesney's employer, has shown little interest in pursuing these questions, allowing him to continue his academic position and funding despite an investigation. This case is not isolated. In 2023, Mark Tessier-Levine resigned as Stanford's president after falsified data in his previous research was revealed. Despite clear evidence of manipulated data, Stanford's official stance absolves him of direct responsibility, blaming a lack of oversight. This widespread issue reflects a systematic problem where academic institutions fail to hold individuals accountable for medical research fraud, resulting in significant delays in potential treatments for diseases like Alzheimer's. This lack of accountability is a grave injustice, with perpetrators often facing no real consequences. Yeah, it's like, dude, see what I mean? How this could be like 5 paragraphs in total. The zine medium requires BS filler. Yeah, this is the biggest tell. If you're a good writer, number one, you won't be just writing, because writing is not a way to make money. It's just not. You're not gonna. I made some good money on it, but that's just because of me being racist and tricking people into buying my books. book.paul.town. They're good books, but it's not a real thing, right? There's only so much you can write. Um, but a bigger tell is writing for a group, writing for a website, whether it's the New American Sun or whatever, or Palladium or whatever fake blog. All the good writers, anybody who has anything of value to say, just has their own blog. And a lot of people with their own blog suck, but there's really nobody who's a good writer who's writing for a group. Like they have their own Substack, right? People who are good writers, who are quality, who have an audience, who are actually understand how the world works, and they can get an audience as a result. They have a Substack. It's like Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald. These people, they write their own Substack because you can, because you actually know how to write, and because you actually have something to say. The people who sign up to do these like group things are like retards. Just like it's a rule, and I'm sure there's some exceptions, but it's generally a rule because it's like these people suck. It sucks. Anyway, here we go. I literally have to do that summary thing with everything nowadays. Yeah. Yeah, Keith Woods, exactly. What about writing comics? The geniuses. People who write comics are geniuses. The replication crisis replicates across fields. Now, could we have figured it out by a basis of the white people not being in charge of science anymore and not running colleges and not running labs? Could we potentially have come to this conclusion that white people are honest as a rule and brown people and Jews lie as a rule? And when brown people and Jews run science and they run academia, everything's going to become fraudulent and stupid? Could we have come to that conclusion without reading all of this? Could we have inferred that without reading all of this? Personally, I probably couldn't have, because I only have an associate's and I'm not in Silicon Valley. I'm not smart enough to figure that out because it might be true, it might not, but I'm from upstate New York. I'm a country boy. I only have an associate's degree. I dropped out of my bachelor's from a state school. All right. So I couldn't tell you whether or not you could infer that when white men are not in charge of science, science sucks because Jews and brown people are in charge of it. I maybe, if I was smarter, could tell you if that's true or not. But because I'm not like this level of intelligence, I really, it's important to spell this out over 7,000 words. Medical fraud may be the most evil form of academic fraud, but is not the only one, or even the most common. Wow, it's almost like structural problems in one field, if a similar field will have the same structural problem. It's almost as if something that's, if one type of car engine has a problem, different cars with the same engine will have the same problem. But that's kind of, I can't really make that connection because I'm not smart, because I'm not educated. I didn't go to college. I only have an associate's from a community college. It's almost as if the same engine in a different car, if an engine has a problem, the cars with the engine will, have the same problem. But I can't make that connection, and I need to read 7 million words to figure this out. More famous is the replication crisis in academic psychology, where since around 2010 it has become widely known that most studies in psychology fail to replicate, which is a polite way of saying that the research is mostly fraud, statistical massaging such as p-hacking, or simple bullshit, such as saying 3 things to say the exact same thing. Anyway, this has had surprisingly little effect, and the field has proceeded with barely even any cosmetic changes, even though all informed observers know that it's mostly fake. Intellectual discourse long assumed that psychology was especially bad compared to other fields, whether due to difficult to study subject matter in the soft sciences, political pressures, or whatever other cause. Yet even while the ivory tower grappled with the problem, academic psychology remained politically influential. Works like Nudge, the influential tooth... Dude, really? See, it's like they don't even edit. It's like, yeah, you take all these like it's just disrespectful. It's just actually disrespectful. Because if you're writing on a blog and you're by yourself and you have like funding and you're doing it, and sometimes you like make a grammatical error or you have it, but if you have an editor, quote unquote, and you write fluff and it sucks in form, and then it also has you're repeating the same word, it's like, dude. It's insane, dude. It's like actually insane. Anyway, works like Nudge, the influential 2008 book of psychology and behavioral economics, provide a tremendous support for the role of experts managing public opinion during the COVID-19 pandemic. In recent years, it has become clear that psychology was relatively good. The indifference to truth is endemic to all or most fields. The psychologists like the Nobel-winning Daniel Kahneman, Bergstein, the author of Thinking Fast and Slow, a book which popularized many of these results, were able to publicly acknowledge and discuss these problems more than a decade ahead of their peers. This came almost a decade after Kahneman-Steinberg work, based in large part on studies which failed to replicate, had played a substantial role in inspiring the influential rationalist movement. Perhaps the most egregious example in psychology is superstar professor and best-selling author Dan Ariely Steinberg-Steinwitz-Goldblatt, likely the most famous psychologist alive. He has had several issues with papers failing to replicate or clashes with the research ethics bureaucracies. But the most blatant incident came to light in 2021. The blog Data Colada, which focused on analysis of research misconduct in the social sciences, published an analysis by a few anonymous and fed up and frightened whistleblowers, which showed that the data in a 2012 paper on dishonesty was clumsily fabricated to provide a positive result. All 5 co-authors agree that the data is obviously fabricated, and Ariely, Bergstein, Goldblatt, Kopperwitzstein, one of the paper's co-authors, had been the one to pass on the fabricated data to his colleagues. Ariely, Bergstein, Goldblatt implausibly claims the data was already fabricated when he received it from the insurance company the authors partners with, and the insurance company claims the manipulation occurred after they sent it to Ariely. This dog ate my homework to your excuse was apparently enough for Ariely's, Bergstein, Goldblatt's employer, Duke University, to sweep it under the rug. In 2024, the Jewish guy said that a Duke University investigation determined he had not knowingly manipulated the data, although Ariely himself remains the only source for this claim, and Duke told reporters we are not in a position to confirm or fact-check anything on this. While most reporting has focused on Ariely as the near-certain perpetrator of the fraud, it is also significant that of the paper's 4 other co-authors, at best, none of them bothered to look at their own data closely enough to spot that it was impossible nonsense. One wonders what they do with their time instead. Probably write trash like this. Many of Ariely's other papers do not pass the smell test, although no one has yet looked closely. Yo, Jimbos, thank you.
The best guy goes to us again. Wow.
Jimbo's just hosted with 198 viewers on Kick.
Thank you, Jimbos. I appreciate it. I saw Jimbo got a sponsorship from a sex toy company. Get in the bag, huh? No, I gotta say, it's a little crass. I was kind of offended by that, because I like to watch Jimbo for his entertainment value. And I put it on with my kids around. And so it was kind of upsetting to see him advertising vibrators and dildos for my children. But we'll still watch that trash. All right, whatever. Many of Ariel's other papers do not pass the smell test yet. Okay. This is not just a matter of picking up a few outliers that will inevitably occur in any massive endeavor. This is a systematic corruption of the culture of academia's researchers, with the active complicity and encouragement of the administration. In the time it took to write this article, I passively stumbled across more examples of consequential research. I Googled for 3 minutes. I passively stumbled across more examples of consequential research fraud by high-profile, field-leading academics than I have space to describe here. Why do I care, dude? Nobody's reading this. We're halfway through. Nobody's reading this trash. If you want more examples, you can find them all day long. Well, I don't. I don't really care, dude. I personally don't. It doesn't matter to me, bro. I don't care. How many similar frauds remain undiscovered? All of them. The one study found that between 2000 and 2021, the fraction of European biomedical papers which were later retracted quadrupled. Dude. How do you think it makes AF look when the Grover General is selling sex chocolate? Yeah. It's a Christian movement, by the way. A Mormon selling you boner chocolate? Really? You really want to have a Mormon selling you boner chocolate? Is this what Nick wants children to be watching? Nick wants children to buy boner chocolate? Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, okay. I think I've heard enough of this America First movement. Anyway, and why not? If bureaucratized peer reviewers or even a paper's own co-authors aren't expected to pay enough attention to notice blatant fraud, if fraud is only revealed by third-party investigators when they choose to make a years-long personal crusade in the face of institutional headwinds, If those frauds which are uncovered don't come to light until decades after the fact, then we can be confident that almost all of the frauds have gotten away with it. Why wouldn't you report the splashy result that you promised the grant makers? Because I'm a white person. Because I'm a white man. Something that this man does not understand. Okay? Nobody with a neck that hairy is white. Sorry. Something that a Sephardic Jewish person wouldn't understand is I'm a white man, and I don't do that. I don't have the... it's not even integrity. It's I have no desire to do that. It's not like I'm tempted to do it and I don't do it. I have no desire to do that. Like, it's just completely absent to me to lie about stuff like this. You know? It's just not really relevant to me. I don't really care. Like, I have no desire to do it. It's just absent from my genes to lie about this stuff. But anyway, why wouldn't you accept the prestige and promotions and money? Because, once again, this is just bad writing. A bunch of questions. It's fine in a conversational tone. If this is Palladium magazine, it's some esoteric NRX think blog person, a bunch of rhetorical questions is bad writing. This is more blog. This is blog writing. This is not article on a website / webzine magazine writing. Why wouldn't you accept the prestige and promotions and money? Because I'm not Jewish and I'm not brown. I'm white. Would you be deterred by the fear that in 20 years there will maybe be some bad articles online, but you keep your job while your colleagues rally around you? No, I wouldn't do this because I'm white. I'm a white person, so I have no desire to do that. Even the case of Tessier Levine being forced to leave Stanford to lead a billion-dollar startup, it seems that even in the case, it seems that he is the exception that proves the rule, facing any consequences at all, not because of his fraud was especially bad, but because Theo Baker had the family connections to take a prominent scalp, for which he should be applauded. In this case, why? Why should he be applauded? Yeah, this just be written. Theo Baker. Theo Baker had, has a lot of influence. Has abnormally large influence. Being, because we've already heard, we already heard he's from a family. This is his Theo Baker's abnormally impactful, influence. Whatever. It's just, dude, why? It's like, yeah, I get you want to use the hyphen, and while I love the hyphen, hyphen's awesome, but in this case, why is in this case here? Dude, what's going on? These people don't know how to write. Hua Yan Wang may end up paying a steeper price, if he is convicted of fabricating simulfilm research, but it is revealing that this is only possible because his accusers gave up on pursuing truth and justice through the system of scientific journals. Instead of calling for a retraction, they appeal directly to federal regulators at the Food and Drug Administration. So you've already told this. So why is this above? If you're going to include this detail later, this should be one. You should have combined the two paragraphs with the, haha, it's so weird. In all the clearly identified frauds I've looked at, I've never found one who is seriously punished by their scientific peers or the university employer, unless the university first came under extraordinary pressure from other leading power centers like journalists. You have power center or journalist, real power center, or federal. I look at this man. No. I look at this man and say, this is a real power center. Anyway. All right, let's check out how we can sum this up. Do the same for this passage. Medical fraud is a particularly egregious form of academic fraud, but it's not the only or most common type. The replication crisis in psychology, where many studies fail to replicate, has highlighted widespread issues like p-hacking and data manipulation. Despite this, psychology has remained politically influential, with works like Nudge and Canahan's Thinking Fast and Slow shaping public opinion and policy. Notably, prominent psychologist Dan Ariely was implicated in a 2021 scandal involving fabricated data in a 2012 paper on dishonesty, which he claimed was altered before he received it. Duke University, where Ariely worked, did not confirm his claims of innocence, reflecting a broader trend of institutions failing to hold researchers accountable. The systemic corruption within academia, supported by administrative complicity, allows most frauds to go unnoticed or unpublished. or unpunished. Even high-profile cases like Mark T.S. Levine's or Hua Yang Wang rarely result in significant consequences unless external pressures intervene, revealing a deeply flawed system that often prioritizes prestige and funding over truth. Yeah, it's like, dude, it's like literally, we're up to 3 paragraphs. 3 paragraphs for this trash so far. We're probably gonna get 5. Yeah, we're gonna get 5 paragraphs. The epistemic bankruptcy of academia. Academics should perhaps take a lesson from one of America's other privileged guilds. Financiers have a sophisticated apparatus for catching those who break its rules and codes, however lax those codes may sometimes be. See, that's just retarded. Fraud is rampant, and it's not really... If you commit fraud, you're more likely to get away with it than not. It's just retarded. Federal bureaucracies like the SEC or the Treasury are staffed largely by former and future financiers and bankers who move freely through the revolving door between private companies and government bureaucracies. As a result, they share much the same norms, the same sense of what's fair, and the same sense of what behavior is illegitimate. In case of outright fraud, the fraudsters' former peers in federal agencies will come down like a ton of bricks and their employer will swiftly cut them loose. That's so not true, dude. That's so odd. That's such a weird lie. That's why it's corrupt. Dude, that's so bizarre. What a weird, like, being wrong about things. What a weird way to be wrong. Of all the ways to be wrong, you choose this? Are you retarded? Anyway. What's up, Karasu? The SEC maintains a bounty program for whistleblowers who are rewarded between 10% and 30% of the fines the commission imposes as a result of their information and regularly announces bounties in the tens of millions. Those caught are often sent to prison. Sam Bankman-Fried's sentence of 25 years may arguably be too lenient for billions of... It's like literally like the only reason he got in trouble is because it blew up. If it didn't blow up, he wouldn't have gotten in trouble. And that's not... He's just a crypto freak. That's retarded, dude. Sentences of 25 years may arguably be too lenient for billions of dollars of theft and fraud, but that he is in jail at all gives the financiers a much firmer moral grounding than the Alzheimer's disease researchers. This approach of a professional society granting extraordinary privileges while also requiring them to submit to congressional oversight and to assist in self-policing provides a much more functional model for all oligarchic guilds which have been delegated core social functions. Dude. All these big words to say nothing. It's like, the U.S. financial system is hardly the greatest edifice of justice in the world, yet it demonstrates a basic level of self-policing, effort to uphold professional standards, and accountability to the rest of society. No, it's not, dude. Dude, it's just so fake. It's just so retarded. Academic institute. Think about 2008, the banking crisis. It's like, dude, give me a break. Academic institutions fall far short of these minimal standards. Known serial frauds are sheltered by their bosses and feted by their peers. The culture encourages this at every step of the way, starting with PhD candidates in order to produce a positive result by any means necessary, continuing with co-authors and grant makers who can't be bothered to look at the data and check whether it makes any sense, all the way to department heads and famous bestsellers being widely cited even after they've been caught. Those who do not commit fraud themselves usually tolerate it in their peers. Yeah, like your entire publication. The minority who will not tolerate frauds usually weed themselves out quietly. I have lost, but not here at Palladium. I have lost count of how many friends of friends entered a PhD program, had an advisor who tacitly or explicitly demanded they commit fraud to get publishable results, and quit in disgust without raising a public stink. What that says about those who remain is not encouraging. Really? Fraud is certainly not the only problem in academic science. Lesser crimes, such as massaging data to create false positives, that's called fraud. That's called fraud. That's the exact same thing as fraud. That's fraudulent. So you're like this. It's like, what is the IQ of this person? I need that Lestello money. Yeah, it's true. I haven't gotten any donations except for Bluegrass today. How is this person like, what IQ does this person have? It's like retarded. It's It's like things different than fraud, such as fraud. BJs are awesome. Nice. Some people, lying is not the only problem. Some people manipulate the truth and or deceive you. It's like, this is lying. And harking, hypothesize. See, the thing is, too, these people have so little actual people who want to write for them that anything they post, anything that they get submitted will get posted. Like anything that's basically in the club. There's no article that gets written by these people who are in the club that they submit to the editor who doesn't edit anything that gets say, nah, I don't really like this one. I guarantee you there's been zero in the history of Palladium that have been rejected. Now, you might get rejected. I might get rejected. Victor Sharp Disney. Paul, me and Jaden think about you a lot. Nice. I like to leave them thinking about me. I like to leave them, make them think about me. It's just stupid, dude. It's like these people have there's no taste. Anyway, and harking, hypothesizing after the results are known, are even more common. Plagiarism has increasingly become a scandal, most famously forcing the resignation of Claudine Gay from once again, that did not force her out. Her being a neo-Nazi forced her out.
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
James underscore Matadobra underscore aka underscore Northstar underscore 4 sent $10. Hello, you probably don't remember me, but couple years ago I talked to you one time on the phone. For some reason your Mustang driving roommate handed you the phone. Sorry. Anyway, I'm 35 years old today and my life sucks really bad. SRS, what should I do?
Make sure you're around quality people. People who are streamers are not quality people. Make sure your friends are people who are around you and live near you. And the people that you rely on are not online people. And save money, spend less money eating out. Don't look at porn, don't smoke weed, and don't pay attention to social media and relax. Have friends, go to church, hang out, and go to church and be productive. Volunteer at a soup kitchen, and you'll find friends and you'll find people who are quality. And then they'll involve you in high quality circles. And you'll enjoy your life and you'll have a positive influence. Anyway, but thank you for $10. I appreciate it. James Matadobra, aka Northstar 4. Thank you very much. I remember you, though. I remember talking to you. Terrible advice. Black Groper says terrible advice. Okay. I think your life is probably worse than that, guys. Most famously forcing the resignation of Claudine Gay from the presidency of Harvard University, the highest post in America's entire academic system. And many fields are overrun by the publication of bullshit and word games. Meaningless, really? Meaningless enough that classifying it as true or false is not even useful. Really? Many fields are overrun with trash being published. Fraudulent data is the worst of these sins, responsible for the biggest pile of dead bodies. No, it's not. The worst of the sins are things I disagree with and being annoying and writing articles like this. I don't care about medical fraud because it doesn't affect me because I'm not a retard. I don't go to the hospital. I just get naked and lay out in the sun. Fraudulent data is the word. Since the damage it does is hardest for other scholars to undo. Yet these are all symptoms of the same disease, Jewishness. With some honorable exceptions, most academics don't care very much about the capital T truth. Oh, they'd prefer truth to lies if truth only costs $2. What? Oh, are we being cute now? But if the cost is at all serious, they won't pay it. Really? People who go into academia, people who spend 8 years getting their PhD are risk averse? Next you'll tell me lawyers are risk averse. Really? Accountants are risk averse and boring people. Engineers are boring people. You're telling me for the first time. I had no idea. It is the fault in the institutions that academics must choose between wealth and prestige and career success on the one hand and pursuit of truth on the other. No, that's the reality. That's how life works, dude. Life is full of lies, and you have to choose which lies you tap into.
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
James underscore Matadobra underscore aka underscore Northstar underscore 4 sent $5. Thanks. I'm in the process of selling everything and throwing away the things I can't sell. I'm thinking about getting a van and going out west. I have a serious mental illness called schizophrenia, and the negative and cognitive symptoms are bad.
I understand, dude. I had a schizophrenic break when I was younger. I would not recommend living in a van. I think that's a bad idea. I think you should go, instead of that, you can sell the stuff you don't need and go to church. Go to a local church that's quality and start to volunteer. And you'll find real friends that will encourage good habits. Because if you're alone, any of your weaknesses, whether it's porn or drugs or being lazy or whatever, everybody has different flaws, right? All that stuff is gonna weigh on you, and you'll be more and more isolated. You don't want to isolate yourself. If you have like schizophrenia and stuff, you have to surround yourself with positive inputs, and one of the best ways you can do it is church. And that's like the best, if in your situation, that's like the best bet is volunteer at a local church and, go to church and sign up for like programs in terms of like, that are helping out at a food kitchen or that sort of thing that involve you on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis with quality people. And that'll help you a lot better than living in a van. Because if you live in a van, you're going to start to go even more crazy. Because, how it is if you have like schizophrenia and that sort of stuff, where it's like you'll get ideas, your mind will start to race, you'll start to think of things, certain delusions. I deal with that too. But by having quality people around me, I don't really get carried away with it because I have socialization and I have positive impacts and people who are mentally well that kind of balance me out. It's kind of like you want to be around mentally healthy people, and then that will dissipate or that'll lessen your negative mental health problems, and it'll kind of smooth it out. Whereas if you're alone, any sort of mental problem you have will just kind of fester. It'll kind of grow, and it'll kind of breed. It'll kind of spread. And so you don't really want that. You don't really want to be alone. You want to be surrounded by quality people, and that's the best thing you can do. You kind of want to be social and kind of sign up to help people, and if you sign up to help like at a church that has a soup kitchen or a food bank, then the people that you work with are going to be people who like to help people who are in need, and so you'll be around them and you'll be in need sometimes, and you'll know them and they'll naturally want to help you because they want to help people who are like homeless or poor, so they naturally are people who care about like people who are struggling. And so that way you'll be friends all of a sudden with a bunch of people who really do care about people who are suffering. And so that's like your best bet, not getting in a van. Because if you get in a van, you'll be alone, right? And then eventually you'll get taken advantage of by bad people because they look for people who are at risk to, whether it's like to either get raped or, they'll take your money or scam you or take your car or hurt you or rob you, that sort of stuff. You want to be around people who have a natural desire to help people. And that's like, people who like go to church, who work at a food bank or work at do a soup kitchen thing.
The Nobel Prize for best guy goes to us again. Wow.
But do volunteering. But a Christian thing is good too, because that's also like a social thing. Because not only will you see them when you volunteer, but also you'll see them at church, and you'll say, "Hey, how are you doing?" You'll have a coffee. You have a donut after church. How are you doing? What's up? You want to come over for dinner, with my family? You want to hang out? Oh, we're doing a game night at church on Tuesday, on Wednesday. And then you'll be naturally, if you can be social and be nice, they'll naturally include you with stuff, and you'll all of a sudden have a very quality friend group that's already been established. Church places are very, very welcoming of that sort of person. All right. But hopefully that makes sense. Because if you get in a car and that sort of stuff, you'll be at risk. Because if your car breaks down, you won't know anybody in the area, and then if you run out of money, then you'll be stuck, right? And then you might end up in a homeless shelter, and then you'll be with low quality people. Because that's like a big thing too. Is if you end up in a psych ward, right, or you end up in a homeless place, you'll be surrounded with other people who are mentally ill in different ways, and then their mental illness will rub off on you because it's a bunch of sick people mentally, kind of like a bunch of sick people together. Is going to make you more sick, right? But if you're a kind of sick person, you're kind of not sick in like a freaky way, but you're kind of a sick person and you have a mental malady and you are surrounded by people who are not sick and are very healthy, their healthiness will rub off on you, and in your mental, either the downsides of it will it'll decrease. But if you get isolated, then if something goes wrong and you end up in a bad place, you'll be around a bunch of other people where things are going wrong, and that kind of, builds on top of each other, if that makes sense. Thank you for the donation. I appreciate it. Anyway, here we go.
The Nobel Prize for Best Guy goes to us again. Wow.
Thank you very much. I was going to Catholic church last year. I'll find a different one because the last one had nasty women talking crap about me and fake prayer requests. So I'll find a new one. Thanks. I made a lot of money on CrowdStrike put options. Well, it sounds like you're smart. If you somehow had CrowdStrike put options, it sounds like you can do pretty well for yourself. But yeah, find one. And also, since you have schizophrenia, always consider that. And since when you're having an episode, or when I had an episode, you start to think there are certain connections. I'm not saying this is the case, but sometimes you might think people are talking bad about you, but they're not really talking about you. It might be real. It might be their own thing, right? So always keep that in mind. Don't say, is this real, or am I kind of imagining this? And you can always assume the best, because maybe they are talking crap about you. But even if you assume the best and you don't really worry about it, like, I'll give you a good example. It's like when I was having an episode, I was kind of like, well, what if everything I'm doing is being spied on? What if there's like cameras around? What if there's microphones around? What if my webcam is spying on me? What if my computer's bugged? And then I thought to myself, well, if it is, I don't really care. Like, who cares, dude? I probably, it's like, oh no, they're gonna see me naked. Oh no, what's gonna happen? Nothing. They're not gonna do anything. And so even though they weren't, that's a much healthier way of thinking about it, because maybe they are, right? Like, who cares? It doesn't actually impact me if my naked body is being spied on by the government, right? If somebody in the government is looking at my webcam and looks at my penis, that's their problem, not mine. It doesn't really matter to me. Or I really don't care if somebody at the CIA has a picture of my penis. It doesn't really affect me. That's kind of gay for them. You know what I mean? That's kind of a healthy mindset if you have those sort of thoughts, where whether somebody's talking bad about you or they're spying on you, that sort of thing. That's a good way to think of it if you're having an episode. And that'll help you, because then you won't really care about it, and so you won't really think about it. And then all of a sudden, very quickly, you'll realize it's not real, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? But yeah, I wouldn't recommend van life. That's one thing I wouldn't recommend. Anyway, yeah, the whole idea of like gang stalking, I really don't care. It's not real, but even if it was, it's like, oh no, they're gonna see me naked. They're gonna follow me while I shop. They're gonna look at my phone. They're gonna record me. Okay, good, enjoy, I guess. It doesn't really impact me at all. Like, it doesn't really actually matter. Good luck, enjoy. It doesn't matter. Have fun. You know what I mean? And guess what? They're not doing that. But if they were, it also doesn't matter. Who cares? Anyway, it's all AI. If they post a picture of your penis on the internet, be like, oh yeah, that's AI. Unless it's a good picture. Unless it's a picture that's impressive, then you can be like, yeah, it's not AI. That's real. But if it's bad, if you have a small pee-pee, then be like, yeah, you ever heard of stable diffusion? That's fake. That's not real. Obviously AI. Anyway, it's a fault in the institutions, academic, whatever. I can't read all this trash. But anyway, these people suck. These people suck so bad. It's 5 paragraphs spread out into 25 paragraphs. It's just like, dude, you're not going to learn anything. For somebody who looks like this, is not going to give you any insight. You know?